Hello. Today we're going to talk about Peter Behrens. That's Behrens. And this is a kind of compendium I found in Berlin in one of the best architecture bookshops in Europe. Whose name is escaping me right now. But this is a compendium of his work, so from 1868 to 2018. And he's well known, or he's not well known really, because he comes slightly before advertising and photography as we know it today, but he is responsible for teaching and becoming the first employer of a lot of modernists. So Le Corbusier, who you will be familiar with and who we'll cover maybe later. Walter Gropius, who started the Bauhaus, Ms. van der Rohe, who, all of these three kind of kings of modernism actually worked under Peter Behrens. The biggest piece of architecture work, because he was an architecture and a designer, biggest piece of architecture work you can see is the AEG factory, which is an energy company in Berlin, and you can still see the factory ground now. It's actually now full of tech startups, which is really fun. And it was a huge building done in the not quite modernist style, but a style that you might kind of look at and go, I can see where this went. And so each one of these little booklets covers bits of his work. You'll also see kind of much later on work, which really crosses over with Mallet Stevens, who we talked about. And I think he was very influential and really interesting, but just not talked about very much. The other person in his sphere also related to Mallet Stevens is Josef Hoffmann. Josef Hoffmann was also a designer, also an architect. And Hoffmann, again, is one of those people who you won't necessarily have heard much about, but is responsible for a lot of very beautiful architecture, one of which is Le Palais Stoclet, which is in, so that's on this side, that's in Brussels, and it's a UNESCO protected building that no one can visit because it's still in private hands. I did write to them hoping they might let me in. That hasn't happened yet. Oh well. And again, you can see the influences on people like Mallet Stevens and later on Le Corbusier, Eileen Gray, these white boxes with black kind of features on the outside, but of course the interiors are still very much Art Deco in the case of Hoffmann. So it's still very lush, very decorative to a degree. It doesn't quite become as minimalist as it becomes in the 20s, and this is 1906, 1905 or so. So again, Peter Behrens and Josef Hoffmann, two really interesting guys who we don't hear very much about. Enjoy.